All right.
Hey, everybody. I am Melissa Clampett, the host of the Reawakened Mom podcast, and I am here today with the fabulous Tamira Hamilton, who is a seasoned sales and marketing professional. But we are going to be talking about so much more than that. I can't wait to dive in. I know you guys are going to just fall in love with her if you don't know who she is, because I mean she's pretty amazing. But thank you so much, Tamira, for being here today with me to share all your goodies.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive into just all the things. You are so fun. You're so great to watch. You have amazing energy and you have just like a great story of everything that you have done in your life. And you just shared about a birthday coming up. So you can share that if you want. You don't have to, but
Okay,
like
no, it doesn't bother me.
you have so much great experience in being in the corporate world and then becoming this amazing entrepreneur that you are and being a single mom. So I would just kind of love to dive into a little bit of everything. But first tell us like who you are, a little bit about what you do, and then we'll dive in.
Well, gladly. My name is Tamira Hamilton. I have lived in southeastern Wisconsin my entire life. I always
Whoa.
say every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. That famous line from The Godfather, which is one of my favorite movies. I have two adult children who are going to be 32. So that birthday you were
Whoa.
speaking of, I'll be 50 the end of January, and my oldest will be, because I turned 18 one Tuesday, had a baby the next. So she will be turning 32 the following week.
Wow.
And, and then I was awakened by my 26-year-old walking in because they have codes and they can get in and out as they want this morning because I live downtown. The courthouse is like literally 3 or 4 blocks away, and so she wanted me to go drive her to the courthouse so she didn't, because she had to report for jury duty. So, and then
Oh my
drive my
goodness.
car back, and I'm like, you had to wake me up for that, like with no warning, no anything. Like she woke me up out of that sleep where she was like, are you drunk? Because I was kind of wobbling because that's I was in that level of sleep.
Yeah.
So I have the two of them, and my soon to be 32-year-old daughter gave me like the best presents ever. My 9-year-old grandson, Tristan, and then
Oh.
my Callie Dream. I call her my dream baby or my punky pie. She was my Mother's Day present in 2020. So
Oh.
she was born, and they know they own me. They absolutely own me. All
Yeah.
of them do, but my kids will say, oh, she likes her grandchildren better than her children, and there might be a little bit of truth to that, but they're all my babies, and I will fight you about my babies. Well,
Oh,
not
I
you,
love
lady.
it. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I love that. Thanks for sharing like how old you are too, because like you have so if you're listening to this, obviously like traditional podcast, you're listening, but you can also check us out on YouTube. So if you're curious, go to YouTube because Tamira is gorgeous. And
Oh,
her
thank
hair
you.
is beautiful. I mean, just look at her. Like it's just a ray of sunshine. Like that's all you are.
And I'm so bad at this. When I go on a podcast, when I do a connect with someone on Zoom, a little coffee chat via Zoom, I never go into it, how can I subdue them? How, like, people are prey and I'm the predator. So I sometimes forget to talk about business and what it is that I do. And I just did it again. So I have over 30 years of sales, marketing, and leadership experience. I've got the formal education in marketing and finance, and I've worked in a variety of industries, everything from travel. I had some really good times. I was at the grand opening of Disney's Animal Kingdom, as well as
Ooh.
Universal's Islands of Adventure. I partied like a rock star with rock stars, to selling computers and peripherals, life insurance, property and casualty. So I got a wide background, and I was a vice president and banking center manager for a very large bank for several years. And in that role, I promoted 18 people in 3 years.
Wow.
So leadership and development is definitely not only, I wouldn't just say a strength of mine, it's something that I've also, because I think I was naturally born a leader, but it's something that I also had to um undo some things. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you learned it that way growing up doesn't mean it's the right way or it's what's going to
Yeah.
fly in the corporate world. And so I've spent a tremendous amount of time on personal development, which kind of, I grew up with personal development. I remember talking to a friend not too long ago, and I was like, I learned that from home. My mom, my dad's mom, my mom's mom, my grandfather, everybody was reading, and everyone was always, I know who Les Brown is because of
Yeah.
my grandmother, right? So I've always had a very strong passion for developing self and how can I be better, how can I better serve. So yeah, so that's my background, and what I do is I'm all about helping anyone. I particularly tend to work with moms and attract moms, but I actually attract a lot of men too who want to learn how to monetize and how to
Yeah.
do what they see me do and what they think is effortless and easy
Yeah.
online. But I think sometimes once they find out everything that I do or I'm about, they kind of get a little scared away. But I make it
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love like when you sent me some stuff, you were like, your journey from a single mother to an entrepreneur powerhouse. Like, I love that you use that to describe you because it's
I
so
think Chat
true.
GPT came up with that, but
Oh, well, hey there. Hey.
I think that's ChatGPT's words, but I can dig it. I can dig it for sure.
Yeah, but it's so true. But how do you help other people do this? Because going from the corporate world, and oh my gosh, I did not know all of those amazing things in your background. That is like pretty remarkable and amazing. And that's like a life
Thank
in and
you.
of itself, right? I mean, that is like, that was a life lived. That's a huge chapter in your
Yeah,
life. So how did you
over
go
20
from,
years.
yeah, I mean, 20 years,
Mhm.
that's a full-time career right there, like for a
Yeah,
lot of people.
totally.
How
Yeah.
did, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
No,
I
I'm
just was gonna
listening.
say, how did you go from that to then like building this empire that you have online of all of these different things that I see you do that people think is so effortless, but I know that there is so much work behind it. Like, how did you go to that next step for yourself?
Yeah, oh girl, that's like a 3-hour long
Yeah.
podcast in
Okay.
and of
Well,
itself
sorry.
right there.
Keep it
But
short.
but, but we'll try and keep it brief, right? We'll try to keep it brief because I can sometimes like get lost in the details. But so right out of high school, because I was, back then they put us in buckets and I was gifted and talented from day one.
Okay.
My mom always brags that they wanted to put me right into second grade, but she didn't want me graduating in college at 16. And I was like, why not? That would have been cool. So because I was on that gifted and talented track, a company, I almost said the name, that is headquartered here in my hometown. They were starting this program as part of their diversity and inclusion initiative because they're situated around all of this color, right? But when they looked in their marketing departments, their sales departments, their accounting, HR, it wasn't representative of not only where they are situated but just of the world in the United States and
Mhm.
the census in that. And so I was put into this program called Training Opportunities for Proven Stars. So I actually am the person who decided what their major is, and I never once changed it. So
Wow.
I also got out in 4.5 years because I went into college with a 6 or 7 month old baby. And so I was on a mission. Like I had to get in and I had to get out. And the beauty of it, part of what I think facilitated that was I would sit in accounting and hear the phrase EBITDA. And then it would just so happen I would be sitting in a boardroom with all these high powered execs and hear and see spreadsheets with that on there. And so, and I was in marketing. I worked on a brand in a product that a lot of people have in their home, or have had at some point. So it was a consumer packaged goods company. And so from there, like I said, I've worked in travel and I worked in so many other industries. And by the time I don't know, I forget how old I was. I wasn't quite 40. It was my late 30s. My grandfather had just passed away.
Mhm.
And he was a hugely influential and very important person in my life. That's who's tattooed on my arm. And so I just kind of started going through this change, and part of it was because I'd spent so much time slaving in a toxic, an extremely toxic corporate environment, to the point that it was impacting my health. And one of the things I just want to hashtag pause and say, and when I've told this story to other people, the first things out of their mouth is, oh, you couldn't handle it, baby. You couldn't handle what I went through. Okay, let me
Yeah.
let me help you understand this. This is not about handling anything. It was toxic. I am
Mhm.
not the only person that their health was impacted by this environment. And that should have been a red flag to me, that all of these people were going out on medical leave all the time in the similar role that I was in. And so that summer I took some time. It was 2012. That summer I just took some time and I just really loved it. I remember, because I'm always going to live blocks from the lake. That's one thing about this Aquarius, is I got to be near the water. And I would always be amazed at how many people were at the lake during the week. I mean, it's not a whole lot, but it was just like, and these aren't people on boats. Like, who are these people and what are they doing? And as it would happen within the next year, I'd had it. I just could not take anymore. I was fed up. I decided I couldn't live like that anymore, in that my health was worth it, because I was afraid that if I continued, at some point my children were going to be burying me. I didn't even have grandchildren at this time. And so because of that journey, when an opportunity presented itself to me, because I was looking at doing something more brick and mortar with my life savings, and an online opportunity found me, and it just kicked off this chain of events, some of them intergenerational and multi-generational, because not everybody was happy with decisions I was making with my life, about my life, and with my education that nobody had a dime on, but everybody had opinions about it. And, and used my children as the reason or excuse for their opinions. And so it just set off this whole trigger of events. And part of that was, I started out as an entrepreneur heavily focused on one thing, but because of my background in life, because of my background in education and work experience, all of my steps were ordered, is all I can say. Every last step along the way was preparing for the next. And in the end, not only did it make sense, but I said this on another podcast, in the end, I was right. In the end, I was right, because now I get to be at my grandson's basketball games. I get to be, at his school, and he gets to call me, and I don't have to figure out, how am I going to be able to get there? Am I going to be able to have to get off? Is my boss going to give me off? What approve it? I don't have to deal with any of that when it's his first time getting up in front of the entire school and taking a part of the prayer service for the week. I get to be there. I get to be fully engaged, fully present. In fact, my grandchildren don't play that about me being on my phone when they're around, unless I'm recording them. They are not here for that. They are used to having my full and complete attention. Whereas with my kids, unfortunately, they didn't get that, because, I came home from work and they were all, I had so much responsibility. Leading a team of 18, 20 people was often like having 18, 20 additional children on top of being a single mom. And it was a lot. And so my mind was always racing. There was always something. The phone was always ringing. And at times, the most inopportune times. I remember I was at my uncle's funeral and got a call from work, and they knew I was at my uncle's funeral.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So toxic.
So it's completely toxic. So to answer your question, that's really what's behind, and the driving force behind what I do. Number one, to be a stay-at-home grandma, to be able to be there, not with my grandkids, but also, my youngest doesn't have kids, and she lets it be known she's still my baby, and she still expects, for her mama to drop everything. And the oldest is a drama queen.
Oh my God.
Just like her. So, when they want their mama, they want their mama, and they get their mama. There's very rare occasion where, like, if I've committed to you, unless it's something, I did have to cancel one interview when my oldest was postpartum with the second one, because it was a little rough for her. And, and it's like, if anybody can't understand that, then I'm sorry.
Yeah. But what a gift that you can do that. Like, I always look at that as such a gift that I can be like, sorry, I have to reschedule.
And that's exactly why I say, in the end, I was right. Nobody saw the vision. Nobody saw the direction. I didn't even fully see it. I just knew that something had to change. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was sick and tired of being overworked, underpaid, overlooked for a promotion. I promoted 18 people in
That's
2 or 3
insane.
years, and you're promoting people who are sitting in jobs and positions and centers where literally all they do is push paper and the money is just walking in the door. And I am out here fighting for my life, to use my kids' words. I'm out here fighting for my life to, push my P&L up. So I'm doing that, and I'm developing and giving. Like, I did have one really good district manager who said, I understand that's a gift to the market. You're giving back to the market every time we come in here and we take someone from you. So it was good to hear that. But
yeah. What about
my
me?
paycheck, yeah. Oh, what about me? Right. And so, I learned from that, because here's the thing, there are definitely red flags, right? But because of different traumas and things in my own life, I didn't see them as red flags. I dug my feet in and had to prove my worth. I had to, and I didn't. I should have just walked away, because I was worth
Yeah.
so much more. My
Mhm.
children were worth so much more, but there was always that pressure of, because people will always argue about whether you're a single mom or not. If I'm the nurturer, if I'm the sole financial source, baby, I'm a single mama. I don't care what support I get from family, or if a daddy decides, oh, he's got time this weekend or not. At the end of the day, 99.99% of these children rest on my shoulders. And that is, I don't like to use the word burden, but it's a heavy load to carry, to balance between being nurturer. Because there were days when I just had the worst day at work. You're dealing with the public about said public's money, and you're dealing with 18, 20 other people and all their attitudes and their personal problems that they bring to work. And, so I would go to the gym, and that's how I got to really working out at that point in my life, because I needed to let that out, because I didn't ever want to take that home to my children. But there were times when it's still, like I said, in my head, and I wasn't present. I couldn't be as nurturing as I want it to be. Like, my youngest doesn't think I'm not a cuddler. And it's like, are you kidding? I used to cuddle with you all the time. But it was because that one time she needed a hug, and she, probably knowing her, recognized that I needed a hug and asked for a hug. And I was just so wound up, I said no, but then I caught myself and I gave her the hug. But people never forget. They forget everything except for how you made them feel. So I can only fix it going forward. I can't fix it going backwards.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot to unpack. Like, I could see how all that story, that's like a 3-hour story. Like, all of your
Yeah,
stories.
girl,
I
I
mean,
told
it's
you. I told you, nothing is ever easy with me, as much as I
yeah.
wanted to be. Nothing is ever easy with me. I remember when I got promoted, and it was like, if you want to get promoted and you want to get promoted now, you got to go to this training. And that training was the first week of school. And ever since my kids were little, I took off from work. I used my vacation time and would take off a week of work so that they could get that at home mom experience for that week of me
Yeah.
dropping them off, picking them up. Even if they insisted on riding the bus, I would ride behind the bus for a week and meet them at school. Especially
Oh,
my first baby going to kindergarten on that bus by herself. Are you kidding me? I followed
yeah.
that bus for a week, right?
Yeah.
And so, and this training, the first day of it was like the second or third day of school. So
Oh,
my youngest was pissed. She was so not happy. I'm sorry. Was that okay to
oh,
say?
you're fine. Yeah.
Okay.
It's nothing. Yeah, it's
I
nothing.
usually
You're
make
fine.
sure to get that cleared up front.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she was livid. She was livid. And I just recently, in recent years, had to explain to her, you have to understand, we needed more money.
Hmm.
As
Yeah.
much as I deserve that promotion, we needed more money. And by the way, you lived a life that children with two incomes, two parents, didn't have that kind of money. They didn't have the things that you had.
Yeah.
Private school, the Beats by Dre, the going down, you had your own debit card and you went and shopped on the Magnificent Mile in Chicago. No, I'm
Wow.
not saying like it was like Paris Hilton
Yeah.
or anything like that. but I'm proud of having been able to do that. It's not like she went and she shopped and spent thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
right? It was a few $100s, but I was able to give you that experience. I remember when my oldest went to school, came home from school, she was so upset. And, you know, we were living in Milwaukee at the time. She's like, people in Milwaukee make me sick. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, nobody believes I've been to Disney World. I'm like, yeah, you've
Oh,
been to Disney World.
oh my
You know,
goodness.
yeah. So, you know, no parent is perfect. We all make mistakes, but I honestly, I remember when my oldest turned 28 and she had this, you know, Tristan probably, he had to be 6 then. I can't believe he's going to be 10. Um, and it wasn't until then that number one, I forgave myself for mistakes made and those choices, you know, and I think that's the conversation I had too with my youngest, like, because she, you know, she, well, I didn't get to play basketball. Okay, you can play basketball, or we could be poor and on welfare, right? Well, I had to work this job
Yeah.
to take care of us. It wasn't
Yeah.
about me choosing the job over you. Unfortunately, were there moments where it may have felt like that? But even when it may have felt like that to you, I was still choosing you because gonna get back to what I was talking about my daughter in a second. But I remember having a 4-year-old and starting my first job out of college, and all of those kids that I was starting college with, and hearing about the thousands of dollars they got to start their life with, the brand new cars and all of these other things. And I was very grateful for the support and love and things I got from my family, but I saw the gap,
Mhm.
right? Because I was sitting there still trying to calculate how, on the starting salary that I got with a college education, with 4 years experience working on a major consumer brand, how I was going to be able to afford my car note, afford the health insurance, be able to put in my 401k, and
Mhm.
still feed and clothe
Yeah.
my 4-year-old child. And by the way, those student loans were going to have to start being paid within the next 2 to 3 months
Mhm.
on top of all of this. And there was no room, there was no time for a second job. So I saw the gap, and that's all I ever wanted to do, was close that gap with my kids. Now, there was a time when I really thought it was going to be on me to just eliminate the gap altogether. And that's another thing that I've learned and I've healed and I've grown into, is that I've already closed the gap. And, you know, I might not have closed it completely, but if we're behind 400 years, it's a lot to expect me to be
Mhm.
able to be the one to
Yeah.
undo all of that. So just to undo and fix and close as much of the gap as I
Mhm.
can. Okay.
Mhm.
And so with my oldest, when she turned 28, it was really about, wow, she's like a grown ass woman. Like, she's going to be 30. You did your job. You did a good job. Relax, relax, you know,
Yeah.
and let go of that guilt, because at the end of the day, no parent is perfect. No parent is perfect. And you gave it your best. You did the best you can
Mhm.
with what you have. And that's when our conversations started to change, because it became more like, understand that, in a way, both of my kids grew up with me, because I
Mhm.
had the first. I turned 18 one Tuesday, had a baby the next, and yeah, I got pregnant, you know, like that fall right after graduating
Yeah.
college,
Wow.
right? So I think I was 23 when I had the second. So yeah, you guys were a part of me growing up, right? So it is what it is, and we just fix it going forward. And part of how I fix it going forward is, I was very fortunate. I had two grandmothers who were very invested in me, right? Emotionally, spiritually. They gave me the time, they put forth the effort. And when I found out that my daughter was having my grandson, that was a primary driving force to completely exiting the workplace,
Mhm.
so that I could, you know, be what my grandmother was to my children. My dad's mom passed away like a month after my oldest was born, and I always hated that because I knew, not selfishly of her being a babysitter for me or a free babysitter, but for her to be in their life, to be a
Yeah.
presence in their life and get to know them and be another piece of how they got so spoiled. But
Yeah.
my mom's mom and my grandfather, my grandmother and my grandfather were like surrogate parents to my kids, which allowed me to really excel and ascend in my career, which helps me do what I do now. Because as much as I was in that toxic environment, I learned so much that I carry, and that it shapes the entrepreneur that I
Mm-hmm.
am today. But my grandparents' house is where I grew up. They just bought that house a few months before I was born. And I grew up there. 14 grandchildren grew up there. I'm the oldest child, oldest grandchild, oldest niece, firstborn niece, nephew. And then my oldest is the oldest child, oldest grandchild, oldest great grandchild, and she gave birth
Wow.
to the oldest great grandchild. And so my now grandchildren are the first to not grow up in that house. But my grandmother, through her connections and through her tenacity, made the school bus drop my kids off right in front of her house. So they would get dropped off in front of her house and go in. And, in a Black family, the older folks back then, they would make breakfast like they were still down south. So rice, biscuits, sausage. And if you got home from school early enough, there would still be some on the stove. So my kids got to come home from school and they could go to the stove and get those biscuits. They could get the sausage,
Yeah.
or grandma would make them whatever
Wow.
they wanted. And I felt it was my turn. I
Mm-hmm.
needed to do that and be that for my grandkids.
Yeah. So is that you're following along in your grandmother's footsteps and you are doing
Yeah,
that
that's part
with
of
your
it. Yeah.
grandkids? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's
I
part
love
of
it.
breaking the generational curses. I think everybody took me wanting to do that. I think some people took it personally when I personalized it instead of taking it personal. I
Mm-hmm.
personalized it in the fact that I understood and recognized I never was ignorant to the fact that they all laid the groundwork for me to be able to do what I do and be where I am. I will never take that for granted or deny that. Were there issues with boundaries though? With these are my kids and I get to decide? Yeah, your input is always welcome. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. But at the end of the day, these are my kids. And if I don't want them eating nasty processed food, that's my right to
Mm-hmm.
do that, right?
Yeah.
So there was some of that, but I personalized it in terms of understanding it was an honor. It was a privilege to be able to do that. Because I remember my daughter said, my grandma told her, I think she was kind of sad and she thought she was disappointing her. She's like, I'm just too old. I can't do it anymore. And she didn't expect her to. She didn't expect her to. Meanwhile, I'm fighting for my life
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to be able to get in the position to be able to do it, because I just wanted to do that. And the bond we have, like, he texts me, he FaceTimes me, and we talk. And there was something we texted back and forth last week, and I said that I liked something, and he was like, you stole my idea. I like that too. And I said, well, baby, we're the same person. We're besties for life. He says, I guess you're right. It's those moments,
Yeah.
right? There's so many different ways to measure success and wealth. And I think, do I want the wealth? Yeah. Am I after the wealth? Yeah. But I would rather have those moments on
Mm-hmm.
any given day.
Mm-hmm.
Any given day, that's what's most important to me.
Yeah. So is that what success means to you? Like, yeah, it's the money, but like really it's those moments that matter that are really, that's like, I have hit the pinnacle when it's like I can do this because of what I'm doing financially and online and building all of these things. That's allowing me to have these moments, which really are the most important things to me right now.
For me, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I would rather have that time with my family, especially my children and my grandchildren, than, I won't say than all the riches in the world, because he's always listening. If I could have both, I want both, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, the real measure of a man or a woman your real legacy is the people that you leave behind, right? Like, I was on another podcast or an interview, and I talked about how, especially in my kitchen, I tend to feel both of my grandmothers very, very strongly. And I thought about it yesterday. Well, one of the reasons is, one of them, I keep her Bible. Our Bible is in my kitchen.
Oh,
I've got another
wow.
book on healing in my kitchen. And I just want my grandchildren to know me. That was the number one most important thing to me. I want them to not know that I'm their grandmother, to not just know my name, but to know me. And they know me. They know me sometimes, maybe a little too well, but I know that there's we're just as sure as we are born, at some point we're no longer going to be here in the physical. And so, I believe that when we imagine, we're creating memories. So I create the memory of a very long time from now, not anytime soon, but they're going to be in some sort of situation, and they will think, well, what would Nana say? What would Nana do? And they won't even have to think those words. They'll just hear me. They'll hear my voice, and they'll hear my words, because that's my relationship with my grandmothers now that they're no longer here. I don't have to cry out to them for support. I just hear them, even before they were gone, right? There was a situation in 2018 that I can remember vividly, where one of the things I've had to learn in life is when to depart, when it's time to make my departure, when something no longer serves me and it's time to go, as we already talked a little bit about, right? And so I was kind of at this moment, but I just traveled and I just trained these people, and man, it was like, man, I don't know if I'm making the right decision, because I just love I love the people. I love being around these people. And my grandmother, before I could even get that thought completed in my head, I could hear my grandmother talking about, because she always would watch the movies at Easter, and I could hear her say, before the crow, what does it say, before the cock crows, or something like that, when about the betrayal of Jesus.
Yeah.
Whatever he says, when Jesus is talking to whomever, and he says, before the cock, cock-a-doodle-doos in the morning, basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
you will betray me 3 times, and I could hear that crystal clear. So it wasn't just about hearing the verse, it was the voice. I could hear my grandmother saying that, and I made that decision, and I left and haven't looked
Yeah.
back.
Do you have any, and I don't know if I want to like say advice, but like advice for someone, because you have done all of these different things and in your family, and anyone that maybe is struggling when they're trying to go out on their own and do their own thing, but their parents or they have family that keeps pulling them back. Is there something that you would say to them? You've said so many things, just to kind of give them hope, or to really listen to yourself, or really trust yourself in these situations, that it's going to be hard. It's never going to be easy to have these hard conversations or set these boundaries, but you can do it, because you're such a powerful leader, and even just a leader in family. And I feel like you just would have, I don't know, just something magical to say. I don't know why I'm even asking that, but it just feels like right
Yeah,
now.
this is funny, because I was, I'm in reflection mode at the end of the year,
Yeah.
and one of the big things for me, the two big things for me this year, and I'll just expound on one of them as it relates to what your question is, and that is, you owe it to yourself and to everyone around you to go after your heart's desires, because one, God did not give you those desires just for happenstance. He gave you those desires because they are going to serve everyone else at a higher level. And that is how he gets his work done, is through you walking in your purpose and going after and living those desires. Unfortunately, some people, and I know I have done this to other people, so I'm guilty too. We have ideas in our head about what other people should be doing, or what they could be doing, or who they are. And that is part of their story. That is part of their healing, to let that go. And you can't let that pigeonhole you or box you in. You have to go, you owe it to every single person around you to go after those desires. But the most important people you owe it to besides yourself is your children and your grandchildren. I am so, like I said, I was right. My youngest granddaughter, I only have one, but the youngest of my grandchildren, she's never, neither of my grandchildren have ever known me to work a traditional job. At one point, Tristan was confused. He was like, wait, do you work? What do you do? Right.
I see you making videos and on your phone and stuff and
You do
talking to
people's
people at the
makeup, you do
computer.
all this stuff. What do you have a job? Like, what do you
Yeah.
do?
Is
And
this like
Callie
makeup? Is this just like play, like
yeah,
dress up?
right. Exactly. And Callie was like, she's not seen her mom work outside the home because her mom has been able to find work at home work. My mom, before she was retired, she was doing some part-time things at home from home. And so again, I'm healing that generational trauma of having to pick between how do I provide and how do I get fulfillment and how do I be present, right?
Mhm.
If I had that, because I like consistent letters, I would say, how do I bridge that divide between providing and presence, right? I like that. I'm going to stick with that, right?
Yes, stick with that. I love it. Well, and you're making that other path. There's another P. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you are giving that option to say there's another way. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to just be this way. There is another way. And other
Because
people
so
might
many
not be able to
times,
see it, but it's there. And I'm here to help guide you to show you that there's another path. There's another
and
way.
and that was so, and people don't understand that was so much of what was in my head at night and what made me not be present with my kids as fully as I could have and should have been on many nights, because I knew I hated a job. I knew I hated a boss. I knew it was a toxic environment where, today you're the shining star and tomorrow they might be out to get you. You might have an X on your back. But it was like, in this job market, meaning southeastern Wisconsin, where am I going to take my education and get paid the same, and just picking the kids up and moving them as a single mom
Yeah.
and leaving that family support was also very frightening, right? And so it was a feeling of being trapped,
Yeah.
right? And so I love that word path, that there's another path, and it doesn't involve you selling your soul to the devil, because I saw a lot of that, right? People selling their soul, doing things that I just wouldn't do, right? um and you don't have to kill yourself, which I still stand firm that had I stayed in such an environment, I might not be here
Yeah.
today. I wouldn't have the peace. I wouldn't have the glow. I would look like what I've been through. And I can't
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah. No, 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 no. You're meant to shine, my friend. You're meant to
Oh,
shine
thank
and
you.
glow.
Thank you.
Um, so one question I do love to ask, this has been a beautiful conversation. What is
I'm
something,
sorry. I
and
feel
you
like I talked way too much.
it's a conversation, and that's the thing. This isn't, and like what I love about this podcast and what I've created is it's literally a conversation. And so I can be that good listener and receiver and then be able to take it all in because that's what needs to be said. And so there's no like it has to be equal time, like 50-50,
Yeah.
like that's the beautiful part. I'm here to showcase you and your message and everything that you
Thank
have
you.
to share. So yeah.
Because
So it's
honestly, as a listener, I hate when the host talks too much. Like, shut up, let them answer the question. So
exactly.
thank
That's why I do my
you.
solo episode. So I'm here for all of it. But you've said a little bit, but one of the things that we as women do not do is celebrate ourselves. And, I think you're going to be good at this, but some people have a really hard time with this. But tell me something that you love about yourself right now.
I do love my skin. How filtered it's looking right now, and there's no filter. I'm
It's
not gonna
looking
lie.
good.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do is I really I've learned to take the time to do those little things. And anytime I do a podcast interview, especially if I know I'm going to be on video or I'm leading a training or speaking in front of a group, it's a self-care day for me. You know, I've steamed and done a few masks and all of that. And I never really have to do a lot of prep for these because I have signature talks, or like we're talking and I know what I'm talking about. So there's not a lot of pressure there. But yeah, I would say the skin, you know, the hair is a wig. I get a lot of compliments on it. And kids think I'm so cool when they find out I have grandchildren and I have this hair. It just like blows their mind.
I'm like, keep staring at it. I can't stop staring. I'm like,
Thank
I hope I'm
you.
not being awkward because I'm literally like
No,
staring at your hair.
It's time. I need to get out and replace it. It's actually nappy. It is
Oh, it's beautiful. It doesn't look like it from here.
Well,
So
thank you.
keep your
Thank
secret
you.
to yourself, even though you just told
No,
us.
girl, because somebody on the internet will point it out. There's always a troll on the internet, and so I like to just say it and take it from them. I know. Okay.
Yeah, you're like, whatever.
Yeah,
I
whatever.
love this so much. And we could have a 3-hour conversation. We might have just talked for 3 hours. I'm not even sure.
No, we didn't. We didn't.
Okay, I know we didn't. I know we didn't. But it feels like we could just keep going and going. So how can people find you if they want to follow you, see what the heck you're doing, all the amazing things, see how you're an amazing glam mother, all the things. Like, how can people find you? Is there like an easy way, or
yeah, before I answer that, can I go back to the one thing I love about myself?
Of course you can.
I love the peace that I have in my life right now. All my like The Color Purple just re-released it. Like when I was in middle school, my friends and I, we watched it so much, we all had our parts and we would just act them out in my basement. And when Miss Sophia goes, "Oh, my life I had to fight." I won't say that all my life I had to fight, but so much of my life I've had to show up and I had to make less of myself for other people. And there were some tumultuous times, and just to have the peace that I have right now, like I'll fight a person about my peace. I'm not really a violent person, but
I will.
But when it comes to my peace, if it costs me my peace, it's too expensive and I'm not willing to play that game. So where you can find me, I have a blog, which is my first and last name, TamiraHamilton.com. You can also from there get to my Facebook, my LinkedIn, all my social medias. You can also text me at 414-404-6040. Give me feedback on what you've heard, what you thought was the best, or what your thoughts. Be nice, be gentle, I don't care anyway. But yeah, you can text me there, and you can also add you to my email list if you text me, and I have tons of freebies too.
Cool. Oh my gosh, I love this. Thank you so much for being here and just, being honest and vulnerable and having these conversations, because I think they're really, really important and genuine to be had. So thank you for showing up this way.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a beautiful day, my friend.
Thank you. You too.